My name is Mia Phillip. I am 20 years old and I am a professional figure skater. I got into figure skating when I was about 10 years old. My dad actually took me to the Galleria of Dallas where they had the ice rink. He did not know how to ice skate either, but he thought it would be something fun for me to try. I remember he just put me on the ice, he got me skates, laced up my boots, and then just kind of let me go. And he was watching from the railing, and I basically taught myself how to skate. And it was one of those things where they've got a railing on the inside of the rink, and I just pulled myself along and just kept doing that for like, I think half an hour or so, until I finally got like brave enough to try taking steps and whatnot. And I was watching other people skate. I was trying to imitate them as best I could. I think I must have been on the ice for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours or so, before I finally like was starting to skate on my own. Like very wobbly, I definitely fell a bunch of times, but I was like skating on my own, and my dad was just really excited. He thought that was really cool. And Galleria also has these like classes, these group classes, so my dad ended up signing me up for them, and I really enjoyed them. And I was 10 years old, so I was a little bit late in the game as far as skating goes, but I was working my way through the levels really quickly. And so eventually my parents decided, okay, we'll get her an actual coach and we'll get actual skates, because this looks like something she actually wants. Like, this is the first thing I had been wanting to pursue out of like my own motivation. So my parents got me fitted for skates, which was insane. I think that was just so crazy for me, having my own pair of skates that were so different from like the clunky hockey skates that were at the rental place. I still have them. They're definitely one of my most prized possessions. They're really pretty costumes too, which I just adored. I had this it was a green flapper dress, and it was sequins and glitter, and it was so pretty, and I just absolutely loved it. And I just had a lot of fun, and that's actually what led me to actually joining the drill team, one of the drill teams, and like having fun. And that's where I started getting into competition and whatnot. I know in high school, when I finally got contracted, it was definitely, I had to put a lot more effort into skating. I had set hours I needed to make, and so that was a little bit hard the first year, juggling that, because I was skating in the very early mornings. Like, I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go skate before school, and then I would come home, change into my uniform, and then go to school. To me, the sleep schedule was kind of crazy for me at first. Transitioning to waking up at 3:30 in the morning is not easy for like a 14, 15-year-old. That is just not something you want to do. Still not something I want to do. I was very lucky. I had a really good support system at school as well as from my family. I think the first semester we were juggling and trying to figure it all out. The following semester, the administrative staff at my high school actually rearranged my classes so that I had free periods during the morning, so I could come to school like mid-morning or so. So that helped, because then I was able to transition to, after practice, I'd come home and I'd get a couple hours more sleep before I went to school, which helped monumentally. A lot of my friends make fun of me. It's like I'm either studying, skating, or working. Like, I really don't have much of a social life. But it's one of those things where I can't really describe what it's like. Skating just, it really calms me. There'll be times where, like, for school, I have to take some time off skating, or I'll go like several days without skating, and I feel the difference in my temperament and everything. I don't feel as centered as I normally do. It's just very calming. I do have ADHD, so my brain is just always 100% going all the time. But skating, as cheesy as it sounds, skating is when it really calms down. I have something to focus on. I feel so much, this is funny, but I feel so much more graceful than I do off ice. Off ice, when I'm off the ice, I'm flailing my hands and I'm being very spastic and I trip over everything, and it's not a pretty sight. It's just I'm kind of a walking disaster. But on ice, there's a flow to how I move that is just, it's like my brain goes quiet, I guess. It's not something it normally does. So I get to enjoy just this silence, especially like early morning on the rink where I'm really lucky and there's nobody else there and I'm just skating by myself and I'm just going through the movements and whatnot. And it's super still and quiet and it's very peaceful and calming. And I'm just completely relaxed. Like I feel like I'm most myself when I'm on the ice. And then just being able to land jumps, and I think there's always that bit of exhilaration when you're in the air that's just completely like, there's always that split second where you're like, am I going to land this? Am I going, like no matter how many times you've done the jump, there's always that split second where you're not sure, but you have to be sure at the same time. It's like, okay, there's the chance I might fall, and you know, it could definitely hurt, especially from the heights that I usually jump at. But the idea, like when I do land those jumps, it's just the satisfaction. It's so satisfying to just be like, yeah, I did that. That was pretty cool. And I do remember this one time. It was for a competition. I was skating a routine blind because I was just very insistent about it. The way the aesthetic of the whole routine was, I was just like, I don't want to be wearing my glasses during it. I just felt like it ruined it. I had a huge complex about my glasses. I hated wearing them. So I skated it blind. I remember everyone being really, really nervous, especially because there were a couple jumps that were a bit tricky, that they were just really worried that I wouldn't land them or I would get hurt, or just like I would misjudge distance and like run into the wall or something. Because when I tell you I am blind, I am so blind. Like I can't even see like the hand in front of my face without my glasses or my contacts. So it was definitely a concern. And I remember skating through the entire routine, no slip-ups, nothing. It was one of the best run-throughs I'd ever done for that routine, and I was so proud of myself. And I remember striking the ending pose, and I was just like, I was so satisfied. Like I must have been grinning so big. And then my feet went right out from under me, and I just slammed right into the ice. And it was the funniest fall I've ever had, honestly. Like the comedic timing was incredible, especially because it was like, at that point the routine was done. Like the judges weren't really going to score me on me falling, because it's not like I didn't land a jump or anything like that. Like the music had ended. It's just that for some reason my balance just wobbled, and it was like a cartoon character. I just went flying, my legs went flying into the air, and I just slammed. It was like my entire back just slammed into the ice. It was the loudest noise. And I remember just kind of being like, okay, like I was kind of like, what even happened? And so I just kind of picked myself up and got off the ice. When you put kids going through their terrible twos and you stick blades onto their feet and put them on ice, it's kind of, you kind of expect it to be a disaster. So it's all a relative scale, kind of. As long, in those days I always just considered, okay, as long as everyone gets off the ice completely intact, no serious injuries or anything like that, no one's in tears, I will accept that as a good day. There were definitely a few that turned me away just because I was a lot darker than the rest of their girls. I would say it's definitely a majority Caucasian kind of a thing. It wasn't necessarily that I was Indian or Asian or anything, so much as that I was dark skinned, and that made me stand out. And that was a lot more apparent in like drill teams and whatnot. And a lot of them were just a little bit too dedicated to the aesthetic of all of it, and so a lot of them would just straight up tell my mother and my coaches that I didn't look the part. And I mean, 10 years, it's a long time to change. I've definitely, even when I've been coaching, I see a lot more little girls who look like me, a lot of like African American girls, dark-skinned Indian girls who are there, and they really do feel like this is something they can do. They don't see that opposition like I did when I was a kid. There's still struggles for them, but I think in general, the skating scene's a lot more open to them than they were when I was younger. If you wanted to get into competition, I would definitely encourage that, just because I find it a lot of fun. But I think that should be something you prioritize, how much fun you're going to have. Don't get into competing just because everyone else is or because you think you should. You really can just figure skate or ice skate just because you want to.